Nigeria, Charly Boy needs no introduction. His life story, after many years of popularity and notoriety, already goes far beyond what a Hollywood scriptwriter would consider plausible. You may well remember Charly Boy from 2 decades ago, with his studs and spikes and his trademark red-tinged mohawk. He became famous for his publicly defiant appearances, a sort of anarchist, often showing the middle finger to the political establishment. But then, over the years, he's also become something of an inspiration for millions of Nigeria's youths who felt cheated by their politicians and who are disgusted by the staggering levels of officially sanctioned corruption in the country. Today, Charly Boy can be said to have become a sort of national hero for many Nigerians. Such is his current popularity that sometimes the world does really seem to be his oyster. Before we speak to the man himself, here he is in his element, blending music with sharp social criticism.
See, as people just to suffer, everywhere na hunger. Government has nothing to offer, cause they are just the hammer. Right? Now who be government? Now who be government? Who be government? Who be government?
To say that the maverick entertainer, political activist, social critic, and fiendishly debonair Charly Boy joins me now in the studio. And you were obviously enjoying that music as it was playing.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I was rocking it while I was in the studio doing it, so I always enjoy it.
It's a pleasant piece of music.
But you didn't introduce me in a very proper way.
Because of course you've got lots of titles, Nigerian titles, chieftaincy titles.
You can leave that out.
Traditional, please.
Yes.
Tell us those titles.
Now, I was born Charles Chukwuemeka Oputa.
Right.
Okay. The artist popularly known as Charly Boy. Yeah. The father of the youths, and hence area father.
Yes. No, I was going to come to
that.
Yeah.
I'm in the mood. I'm in the zone. The Odudubariba one of Africa.
What does that mean? Because we have audiences who are not Nigerian.
That means the most revered spiritual warrior. I'm a spiritual warrior.
Right.
Okay? And the president of all frustrated Nigerians.
Well, then you've got a lot of people
yes.
who you're president of.
Oh, yes.
And it is fair to say, isn't it, that you are a sort of movement onto yourself. I mean, an initiative that started and has now snowballed into something much larger.
Because I've taught the young people in this country how to be their authentic self. Okay? A lot of people look up to the brand, and, for those who didn't have enough sauce, enough gusto to chase their dream, well, Charly Boy told them how to hang on, stay focused, be tenacious.
And it is a brand, isn't it?
Of course it is a brand. Do you need to ask that? Yes, it's a brand. It's a youthful brand. I remember in the beginning, my father would always say to me, when I first started, he said, this ain't going to work. I said, why? He said, because the people are
In other words, this brand isn't going to sell.
Yeah. The people are conservative. They don't have deep thoughts, And I said, and I will say back to him, I said, listen, I'm in a hurry to get to somewhere. I can't keep living under anybody's shadow. Okay? So I got to do what I got to do to get there. And then when it's time to show Nigerians what's it up here, my brain, then I will. But before then, let me be as wild and crazy as flamingo-ish as I can possibly
And of course,
get.
it is fair to say, isn't it, that your persona is almost diametrically opposed to that of your father.
Yeah, but
I mean, your father was a Supreme Court justice,
but
quite
we stand for the
conservative,
yeah,
religious.
Yeah. You see, what he succeeded in doing at the bench, the bar, with his judgment, is what I did on the streets.
So in other
Simple.
words, it was a different measure of
Yes,
success.
precise.
You were born into a family, now that we're talking about your father, that is as close to Nigerian upper class royalty as they come.
Yeah.
Your father, as I said, was a celebrated Supreme Court justice, a brilliant legal mind, and part of this country's greatest generation of high achievers.
Yeah.
And well, the reason I mention that is that the perception people have is that you went south.
Why not? It's my life, isn't it? It's my life. And I remember, when I finished my youth service, I think that was about 79, thereabout. And one morning, we were living in Owerri at the time, right? And then one morning...
And Owerri is a town in the southeast of
Yes,
Nigeria.
in Imo State.
Right.
Yeah. And one morning, my father says to me, "Get ready. Tomorrow you're going to go to Port Harcourt and take this letter. You give it to this guy, and you start work." And I'm like, I didn't discuss. I was going to go to a 9-to-5 work with anybody. He said, "But don't you want to work?" I said, "No, I want to be my own boss." What does that mean, your own boss?
And what did you study that
I
you studied in America,
yes,
didn't you? Right?
I had my master's in mass communication. Yeah, and yeah, I'm good with communication. I'm good with communicating different stuffs. Okay, so my father thought it wise that I should be the PR in Shell. Yeah. And when I turned the offer down, that I didn't want to work, I didn't see myself as a 9-to-5 kind of guy. And he goes, "Okay, so what do you want to do?" And what came out of my mouth, I didn't really think about it, okay? But I had to say something to piss this guy off, because this guy has been on my case ever since I was born. And at one point in my life, I didn't think he loved me any, because he was too hard, too obnoxious, too cantankerous, too overbearing as a father. But with hindsight, I begin to see I was also a little rascal, a little devil, and I was always getting into trouble. Okay.
And would you say that it was that fraught relationship that you had with your father that sort of moved you in a different direction from what he wanted? In other words, you wanted to defy him because it was your way of saying, "I don't want you bearing down on me."
Precise. Charles, is there a couch here? Maybe I should lay on the couch and you get into my head or something.
I'd be afraid to get into your I'd be very afraid to get into your head.
Yeah, you're right. That was what it is. Because ever since I can remember, Charles, the household was so regimented. It was obnoxious. Okay? You have to eat at a table at a certain time. You have to use your cutleries. You have to do this. You have to pray at a certain time. There was too many rules and regulations.
But of course, he was simply a child of the age that he graced.
Yeah,
I mean, many parents from that era were like
that. He was choking me with all those values, all this. He used to say to me, "Do you know who you are? Do you know who you are?" I got tired of hearing that. I said, "I know who I am. My name is Charles Chukwuemeka Oputa. I live at number 11 Ohofia Street, Borokili, Port Harcourt. So what?" He said, "No, that's not who you are. You're an Oputa. You have to talk like this, walk like this, be like this." I didn't understand it at the time, Charles. But, it's like I did a 360 degrees. All those things I rebelled against are the things I've chosen to adopt. The things I find solace in, and that was why for the last 14 years, you know, before my father passed, I brought him. He lived in my house. I was downloading all the wisdom. I didn't know that my father, this same man, I didn't really care for that much as a teenager, was my #1 hero, more or less.
Well, that's a story that in the end ended well, wasn't it?
Oh, yes, it
Right,
did.
okay.
It had a beautiful ending.
Right, I'm going to ask you to stay with us. You're watching the Arise interview. Plenty more still ahead as we continue our dissection of the life story of the famously notorious Charly Boy. Stay with us.
Notorious?
Now, Charles Oputa has a life story that even the most creative script writer would have been hard-pressed to invent. He was the son of a celebrated Supreme Court justice who became a pariah after he broke with the very idealistic, pseudo-religious upper-class family his father had created and the stodgy government his father served. But after years of self-imposed exile, he emerged from his chrysalis as Charly Boy, a new man, more confident, more relentlessly outrageous, more in-your-face loud, and more expressively dramatic in perhaps more cringe-worthy ways than his rather conservative father would have liked. He created his own diverse array of charismatic attitude, psychedelic style, unorthodox avant-garde fashion, and other forms of radical expression, anchored in a sort of punk subculture of politically charged music and edgy, provocative photography. But his new-fangled persona was also rooted in the economic hardship and social fragmentation that was rife amongst Nigeria's teeming unemployed youths, an acute sense of failure, hopelessness and disappointment that Charly Boy captured in his music and which connected with ordinary people. Take a listen.
When I look up, now commotion. When I look down, now frustration. When I look at my side, now you read the truth, now connection. If you look at percent, now stagnation. When I look my side, now one day, our Aniagolu, now so then they talk. One day, our Mumu go do. Now so we talk. This country take our land. Rise up and take your command. We dey sit and we know the time. We must fight for our right. Anyhow.
Charles Oputa, popularly known as Charly Boy, is still with me in the studio. Thank you for staying with us. When would you say that your activism career and your concern for the downtrodden began?
That's a good question. I think at the age of 4 or 5, thereabout, I used to think while I was growing up, this little kid growing up in Port Harcourt, that my father had lots and lots of children, right? But I noticed something very odd. He always wanted me to go out with his friends' children, yeah? Who I thought at the time had their nose in the air. They were kind of snobbish. And I didn't like them because they were boring people. I like to play and, you know, because I was a very playful kid, you see. So I like to play and hang out with, you know, the kids of the washerman, the drivers and stuff like that. Until one fine day, now, you know, I'm a privileged child, okay? I had a room filled with toys, okay? I practically got any toy that I wanted, yeah? It was bought for me. So, and I had a whole, it was like a football field. It wasn't like a room because, you know, I was allowed to play and just be myself, right? Till I now went to this, I think it was our drivers' kids, to see them, to visit. And I found it odd that there were like about 4 people in a room and they didn't have any toys to play with. And from that day, moving forward, I never had toys because all I did was just give my toys away because I was looking for people in that class to play with because I was very,
you
very
could
playful.
identify with something.
Yes,
then.
yes.
Right.
And I think it started from way back. And don't forget, from the kind of home I'm coming from, my father was filled with so many quotes. And I remember one of the quotes, he always used to say, then I was just about 7, I hadn't even turned 10. He will always say, anywhere you see injustice, you need to fight it. Fight it before it chops your head off. And Charles, I didn't want nothing chopping my head off. So it was like, and we were encouraged, like when we had visitors in the house, regardless of how old or whatever they're discussing, we were encouraged to be in their midst and ask questions, even though they were silly, stupid questions. Okay? So that sort of reinforced my confidence in myself and, hanging out with older people, But yeah, from way back then, this thing that upholds injustice of any kind, yes.
So you were clearly, as you said, you abhorred injustice.
Yeah.
And did you make an association with that injustice or a link to your father? I mean, you've said your father always said
I
that.
think I didn't even know why I was doing some of the things I was doing, but I was doing them anyway. And looking back, it appears to me like I had everything planned. No, I was just having fun with myself, Even till yesterday, I think most of the things, they just come to me. I'm just having fun.
And then you went to America. You went to school,
Yeah.
and then you came back.
Yeah.
And after you
I only
came,
spent 5 years in America.
Right.
Only 5 years.
But
I
after
ran
you-
away because of the racism I saw there.
yeah.
Yeah, I didn't
Yes,
like
America
that.
is full of it.
Yeah,
Because I went to
didn't like-
university in
yes.
America as well. But then you dropped out of, you came back and you dropped out of modern contemporary Nigerian society and moved to your village of Oputa
You know why?
in the southeast. And I've read that you spent days on end
Days
going
on end?
over Nigerian history in your mind, figuring out where this country was going wrong and how to fix it.
Yeah, but I had to fix myself first. You understand? I went to Oputa
Did you
because-
actually fix yourself or unfix yourself? Because
I don't
some
know which comes first, Charlie. Don't ask me that. Hey, listen. When we were in Owerri, and I said to my father that I didn't want a job, I didn't want a 9 to 5, and a week later he was made a Supreme Court judge. He had to move to Lagos from Owerri. Guess where I moved back to?
To your village.
To the village.
Right.
I spent 7 years of my life in that village.
Was that when you
Because
started?
I didn't want to be under anybody's shadow.
No, I understand that. So it was a way of sort of asserting your freedom, basically,
Precise.
by moving. there.
Precise.
And what about the punk culture? Had that come at that stage?
That was when it started. I was
Right.
playing with it. I know I needed something drastic.
Right.
I needed something flamboyant. I needed something that's going to shock and awe people. Because why was the Charly Boy brand created anyway? To shock timid, Mongo-packish, last year, analogish, mumuish Nigerians out of their bloody way of thinking. Yeah.
And then you emerged from self-imposed exile, which is what you could call that time in your village.
Yeah, well,
and
it
that
was a
was when
time-
your place in Nigerian public life started becoming more prominent.
Precise.
Tell us
Precise.
about that.
Well, the first 3 years was horrible. I've never experienced poverty in my life. As of when I decided to go my own way, and I started from the village. I wasn't born into a poverty-stricken family. I've never known poverty before, but that was my first romance with poverty, for 7 years. The first 3 years was, I was just scraping by, and I had an agreement with my wife that she goes back to America, maybe does some work here and there.
That was your
and
wife
send me,
at the time. Was that your first wife?
No, it wasn't my first, it wasn't my second, it wasn't my third, it's the last one, Lady D.
You mean the most current one?
Yes.
Right, okay.
You know, I was with her then. So,
Right.
and we just had our first baby. So I was left here, I was in Nigeria, in the village, left with a baby. And she went to America and she stayed 3 years working and sending me some money to, you know, to manage with me and the baby, you see. And till an angel, in one of my trips, you know, because I was trying to sell my album, trying to be out there so people can get to know me. They wouldn't know me if I'm staying in the village, would they? You know? And my first trip ever to Lagos, after 3 years or 4 years, thereabout, I met this angel called African Oyibo Tina Onwodiwe. Okay? We became friends, and she sort of guided me in the industry because she was more exposed, she gave me back my confidence because years of staying in the village robbed me of my self-esteem, my confidence, everything. And, you know, the thing that kept echoing in my head, you know, was my father telling me, you're throwing your life away, you're throwing your life away, you know? And once in a while, I was, am I really throwing my life away? I mean, this thing I'm doing don't seem to be going anywhere.
So the confidence that Tina gave you made you sort of break out. Was that when you started?
She was the
Mohawk
person.
and your
Yeah,
sort
of course.
Right.
Listen, I went
She
to Lagos
to build the brand, essentially.
Precise.
Right.
She's responsible for 50% of the
Right.
success of the brand. Yeah. I went to Lagos one day, one fine day, of course, to see Tina. And she just said, come with me. I always followed her like a puppy. Come with me. She took me to a hair salon. And she made sure she cut here off, she cut there off. She said, and she now told the people, throw some red on here. That was my first mohawk.
That's how the mohawk
That's
came
how
about.
it came
the red
about.
tinged
And then
mohawk.
as soon as we came back to her house, and she said, okay, I have another idea. I think this look should go with a motorbike. That's how the motorbike thing came on. It wasn't my own idea.
Absolutely
really.
brilliant. Hold that thought.
Yeah.
We're going to talk some more. You're watching The Arise interview. Plenty more still ahead as we continue our chat with the iconic Nigerian celebrity Charly Boy. Stay with us. Now, Charly Boy's motto might have been, if you say it's forbidden, I'll do it. He's weathered sharp attacks from opponents and politicians, but his burnish of authenticity, increasingly rare in public figures, speaks to the Nigerian ideal, if there's any such thing, of freedom and true patriotism. In a way, Charly Boy is who Nigerians want their politicians to be: straight-talking, a maverick mixture of PR, personality and truth, a public figure who tries to identify with the case and cause of the masses, even if he doesn't always live up to their own idea of who he is. Here's his former comrade turned critic, Deji Adeyanju, taking a dig at him on Arise News.
The issue of going to collect money from the oppressors was not the real issue. There were several issues of going to collect money from them. You understand? There were so many issues. They collected money from so many people. And when I had it, you know, I confronted him once before the prison experience, and I warned him. You understand? And he said it will never happen again. And I said that if such a thing ever happens again, I will never be part of the movement, and I'll pull out of the movement. And there were 4 of us there, and thank God that Yellow Showore is still alive. You can verify because he later joined in. And so he apologized, and I said, let bygones be bygones. So when my incarceration thing happened, and I was told that he collected money, and when I came out, I went to verify it. I verified it from 2 reliable sources, and I confirmed, and I went to meet him in his house. And I said, you did this, you did this, you did that. And he said he's sorry. And he said that he was only trying to mediate. You understand? He met Kiamo, and he was trying to mediate, blah, 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 blah. And I said, how can a fellow comrade be in detention by a government that sent him to prison, and you went behind my back to collect money from them after the last encounter we had, and after everything I said? I told him, I said, you have 17 grandchildren. 17 grandchildren. And the impression out there is that you are genuinely doing this because of the love of country. I said, I can never be associated with you because you do not represent the values that I hold dear. That if it was to be collecting money, we would never have come into activism to do activism. And as such, I can never have anything to do with you. He followed me to my car begging that we should reconcile. I just simply told him.
Charly Boy is with me in the studio, and of course, in the interest of balance, we have to balance things. That's why we're objective journalists. I mean, what's all this about you compromising your principles and getting into bed with the Buhari administration? I mean, if that is true, obviously that affects your credentials.
Nothing affects my credential. Nothing can ever affect my credential because Charly Boy, knock on wood.
Yeah, but what's your response to those allegations?
Like I already told you, if you're doing streets, you pick up stray cats. Stray cats, what do? They scratch. You pick up people from the gutter. What do? They don't have no value system. They don't have no respect. Okay, that's a whole bulk of rubbish. He just said, made up stories.
Well, I mean,
but it doesn't really matter,
right?
Because
he did make some very specific allegations.
What allegations?
He says you collected money from the Buhari government whilst he was being tortured for his beliefs in prisons, beliefs that he thought you both shared, which is holding the government accountable, criticizing their policies.
We don't share the same beliefs. These are people that I just met on the street. And when you meet people on the street, these are the kind of things that just happens. He's a politician. I'm not. I'm not for anybody. He's for somebody. Okay? So we can't come together. And if he's saying I'm collecting money, that somebody gave me money, and I'm still cussing them out and dissing them, I must be a very powerful person.
And of course, the presumption is that he has the evidence that you collected money.
Bullshit. Okay? Now let's not ruin this nice interview. All I can say about that is that's good reasons to bad rubbish.
Right.
Okay? It's good they're out of my life so I can focus and do the things that I've always done for the past 41 years. I've not changed. I've been consistent. I've been tenacious in chasing whatever it is I'm chasing, in standing up and being the voice for the voiceless. I'm not going to start to change when I'm 70, collecting money. I may not have money, but which kind of money haven't I seen? Okay? These are your people from the gutter. It's not because I'm doing street that they're hanging around. I let them hang around me. Like I said, you pick up stray cats, they're bound to scratch you because that's what they do.
So let's just be ineluctably clear. Those allegations you say are false.
Listen, they've also accused me of being gay. Is that true? They've accused me of being a cultist. Is that true? They've accused me of being irresponsible. Is that true?
Okay, let's move on. What I wanted to ask you was, I mean, this idea of being Charly Boy, this image of Charly Boy that you have to carry with you. I mean, do you get tired of it sometimes?
How can I get tired? Because nothing excites me like the ignorance of Nigerians.
But you have to live up to this image.
Yes, and thank God I know the difference. Like in my house, I'm not Charly Boy. I missed Oputa in my house. In the boardroom, I missed Oputa. But when I go to do my street shenanigans, I become Charly Boy. I just wear that toga, wear that dress, and I change. I have 4 personalities, and it's not easy. Yeah.
Not schizophrenic, 4. Are we?
No. Because I bring them as They come up as when needed. I have Linda. Okay, Linda is my female side. Okay, I have the Odudu Bariba, I explained to you, the spiritual warrior. Okay, then of course I have Area Father. I have Charly Boy, and then who controls all of those personalities, Mr. Oputa.
And the woman who's in you, Linda.
Yes.
Is that the one that we saw? Because I mean, there's a picture. I wonder if they can call up that picture where you had a wig, sort of a red wig on, and you were
that
sort
was
of
Linda.
Yeah, it was a kind of cross-dressing look. I'm not sure if they've got it.
You know, that was how I really started the Charly Boy brand.
Right.
I used to have lipstick. I used to put rouge on and eyeliners, and I used to sweat so very much.
That must have freaked people out.
Of course, it freaked my father out. Oh, my poor father.
I have to be honest, it might have freaked me out, not to talk of your father. And I'm a pretty accepting person, and I've known you for a long time.
Yeah, that was how I started, you know. I even started before Boy George came along. Okay, so people thought I was copying Boy George.
Yeah, the difference, of course, is that Boy George was gay. I mean, he was very clear that he was gay, and you're not.
And that's where the gay thing started, you know? I just get tickled when people, you know, because Charly Boy means different things to different people. You can only see the brand from where you stand. And if you're standing on a heap of ignorance, that's how you see the brand. Okay? Because it reminds me about the case of the 10 blind men as they stumble onto the elephant. This one holding the tail and say, oh, this animal is very long. It's like a snake. The one that had the feet said,
the
this
12
is like,
men of Hindustan.
Okay. They described what they thought they were feeling, but that wasn't the whole picture. So it takes depth, okay, like somebody like you to see the beauty of the brand, not stupid mumu people.
That sounds almost elitist.
Well,
what you
listen,
fought against for a long time.
You, where are you coming from?
But
are you from the street?
But I'm not. I'm not trying to be from the street, whereas you are. I mean, your
wasn't trying to
credentials.
be. Not that I
your
was trying to
depend on.
Charles, listen. I wasn't trying to be on the street. I just had love for the street.
Yes, I understand what you mean. Yeah.
I met on the street.
That's a distinction.
Yes.
So given what you've said, how would you characterize your ideology? I mean, are you left-wing? Are you revolutionary? Are you anarchist? Are you progressive? Are you anti-authoritarian, anti-establishment?
The truth, I swear to God, I don't really know how to answer that question, but I will say a little bit of everything, depending on what's facing me at that particular time.
But you're true to yourself, and that's really
at
the
all
key
times.
thing. Right.
At all times, and that's what I teach young Nigerians about. Be your authentic self.
That's a very good point, and that's interesting because it suggests that you're not trying to be what you're not, in spite of the fact that
all
you've
those
created
people running
this
around.
persona.
Listen, you know the funny thing. You know the story of the 9 digits, like that guy was talking about going here collecting money. He's just so ridiculous. It's so funny. I created that controversy because one silly journalist came to me. You know, there's some of us.
What was the controversy? Sorry.
That I collected money.
Okay, right.
Yeah. I said I created that.
Okay, right.
Okay, because
it was a PR stunt, was it?
Precise. Because you can't get me with anything that's bad news. I strive in it. I strive in controversy, and I take it to the next level. And I know how to make bank with it. So here I was one fine sunny day. This journalist showed up feeling very hip with herself. And she said, we heard like it was something, you know, which I even created. Yeah. We heard you collected big money. I said, oh, if I mention the amount I collected, everybody will run away and leave Nigeria.
So you did collect money then? Okay, or you said to her.
No, I
you
said to
that
her.
to her. I see
and
what
she
you mean.
said,
Yeah.
okay.
To
And
kind
she
of
said,
reinforce
okay,
the.
how big is the money?
Right,
Is it
right.
5 digits? I said no. Is it 6 digits? I said no. Is it 7? I said no. He said, how much is it now? I said, it may be 9, it may be 10. And just in case Mumu Nigerians still don't understand, it's not 100 million, it's 1 billion. 9 digits is 1 billion.
Let me ask you
Who
to
would
hold.
they give 1 billion?
Let me ask you
for?
to hold that thought. You're watching the Arise interview. Plenty more still ahead as we continue our chinwag with the maverick entertainer, political activist, and social critic, popularly known as Charly Boy. Stay with us. Now, Nigeria has more than its fair share of interesting political characters, musicians, religious leaders, and even comedians have at some point all made attempts to lead this country. But none have been able to garner the sort of grassroots support across the country's ethnic and religious divide that would have enabled such a bid. But one intriguing personality who might or might not have been able to muster such support has no interest in running for office. He is, of course, Charly Boy, and he continues to make huge waves, mobilizing large numbers of youths and working class Nigerians, particularly around election time. Take a listen.
Frustrated Nigerians, this is a 911 call. Nigeria is in a state of emergency. Nigeria is deteriorating into the abyss in a free fall as the last shred of hope for the citizen is quickly vanishing. A recent event in the country should wake us up. Yeah. We need, as a matter of urgency, to be more vocal, be more visible and demanding for accountability, transparency, and participation in the affairs of our country. Oh yes. We must clearly understand that it is our job, and not any foreign country's job. It is our job. It's not a job of angels or Allah or Jesus or anybody else to right all the wrongs in Nigeria. Oh no. It is our job. The truth is this: only us can save Nigeria. Oh yeah. With some help from our friends and well-wishers, the heavy lifting and the bulk of the work is Nigerians to do. Yes. Our diasporas must also acknowledge the responsibility.
And Charly Boy is still with me here in the studio. From an activist point of view, what would you say your marquee issues are? What are the issues that you would most like to see addressed in Nigeria?
First of all, let me say this. The word activist have been so bastardized. I don't like to be called an activist.
So what do you would like to be called then?
I don't know. Maybe a social engineer. That's what I've been doing from Young Street for the past 45 years. That's what I've been trying to do, to retweak and rejig the youth mindset. Okay? All these activists, they are coming to talk of Pupu Nyanya up and down. Please, I don't want to be grouped in that group.
Well,
okay?
I promise you, even if you
Please,
tried, you
Charles.
wouldn't be grouped by anybody with anybody else.
You know.
But
That the tape you just watched, it was my message to the people in diaspora. I traveled about 2 months ago. I was away for the first time in my life, you know, since I came back. I usually, when I travel, I don't stay more than a week or two because body starts to pepper me. I want to come back, rush back home. But this time I stayed about 5-6 weeks, yeah? And it afforded me the opportunity to go 4 city tours in Uppsala, in Stockholm, Sweden.
Uppsala is in Sweden.
Yes,
course, yeah.
yes, and in Frankfurt, Germany, and one other time one other town I can't seem to get the name right, and it gave me a different idea because this is what I see, Charles. Okay, for the past 40-something years, I've been talking with my people here. You know, every day it gets worse. It's as if some rat or something has eaten into their brain. Their ignorance, you know, the ignorant is ignorant of their ignorance. And I'm like, you know, it's not the fault of the government anymore. I'm not looking at them. But what about the citizen? What are we doing about our condition and situation?
And to hold the government
Yeah, and
accountable.
to hold the government
Right.
accountable.
So why have you never gone into politics?
It's not my thing, just like I didn't go into a 9-to-5 kind of. It's not my thing. I'm not a politician, and I don't want to be. And not to talk about the way politics has been so rubbish in this country. This is not politics. I don't know what it is. Okay, I know that it's not that rosy everywhere. Look at what America is going through. Okay, look at Donald Trump with his crazy politics. Okay, so I'm not a politician. I don't belong in that. You know,
But,
and
but you're somebody who wants to make a change. So to that extent,
yeah, I'm asking. All I'm asking,
right.
for the use of this country, make a change in your mindset. That's all I care
Yeah, but
about.
you would help more if you were in a
Yeah,
position.
that's how they say.
The reason
if you get in, you can change it from the
but
inside.
the reason I say that is that the battle for ministerial appointments is currently raging in Nigeria. Would you be interested in such a position?
No.
Perhaps
No,
as
no, no.
Minister of
No,
Youth?
no.
Minister of Youth?
No.
Or Minister of
I'm
Information?
the president, for crying out loud. What are you talking about, Charles?
So you,
I'm the president of all frustrated Nigerians. That counts for something.
right. So you want to keep those credentials?
Precise. What am I doing with this messed up people here? No, I don't want any ministerial position.
Nevertheless, in spite of all the effort
Yeah.
that you've expended
Yeah.
in this direction,
Yeah.
this engineering direction
Yeah.
of society, would you say that the campaign that you've presided over has consistently faltered? Because the lives of millions of Nigerians have basically not improved, and you have not been able to infuse it with enough energy to effect that change.
You know, Charles, sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night, I ask myself, you know, have you really done anything? You know, what have you done so far? Has anything changed? You know, but I look around, okay? I see some young people, those that have mentored, those that have passed through me, you know, like the Ali Babas of this world, like the Majek Fasheks of this world, like the Tunde and Wumi Obeyers of this world, okay? I can keep naming names till tomorrow, okay? And they've taken something, just like I've taken something from them while we were together, they've taken something from me. And I know that because of me, there are millions of Nigerian youths out there that never gave up on themselves, that never gave up on their dreams, that never gave up even though nobody else believed in them. They believed in themselves.
Right. We're
Because
coming
all
to
they
the...
had to do was look at Charly Boy.
Sure. We're coming to the tail end of the interview, and I just want to ask you, that dream that you've had of a better society in Nigeria, where does it stand now? Is it at an end? I mean, you're in your mid-60s now.
I don't know.
I mean, where does it stand?
The truth, I'm a merchant of hope. That's what I see is not encouraging. Sometimes, and that is why I'm the president of Frustrated Nigerians. I am frustrated myself. Almost every other day I'm frustrated being in Nigeria, trying to survive in this hellhole, okay? So sometimes I don't even know if I'm coming or if I'm going. But, you know one thing about me, I still remain focused, consistent to the as far as the message is concerned, with tenacity, and all I can offer Nigerian youths now is to say, well, if I believe, then there must be hope. This cannot be the end. This should not be the end.
And on that note, Charly Boy, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you for having me.
That's it for this edition of The Arise interview. Join us again for a fresh edition tomorrow from me and the entire team here in Abuja. Bye-bye, and thank you for watching.